Championship Wrestling had a maligned reputation when it came to letting future stars slip through their fingers, whether it was stunning Steve Austin, Mick Foley, or, you know, all four radicals at the same time. While their talents were plain for all to see, there were other wrestlers who perhaps didn't seem like anything special at the time, but years later, sometimes many years later, became major players elsewhere. I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 WCW losers who became big stars. Join us. This video is brought to you by WrestleCrate. WrestleCrate is the original and best wrestling subscription box, packed with the best wrestling merch and shirts every single month, delivered straight to your door. T-shirts like this, or this, or this, or these. WrestleCrate partner with the biggest wrestling stars of the past and present to provide you exclusive merch that you will not find anywhere else. Like this, or this, or this, or this, or these. Sign up today at WrestleCrate.co.uk. The link is in the description below, and use code CULTAHOLIC to double the goodies in your first WrestleCrate. Double! You would be a stupid idiot not to. Number 10, Brian Armstrong. Oh, you didn't know? Yes, ages before making it big in WWE as Road Dogg, Brian Armstrong was trying to get his foot in the sports entertainment door, which included an off-and-on dalliance with WCW. Brian's older brothers, Brad and Steve, were both working for the company at the time and must have
the Armstrong brothers.
Their sibling. Given the Armstrong family's reputation as all being great workers, it's no surprise WCW gave young Brian an opportunity despite his inexperience. He first wrestled on a house show in 1990, where he put over Terry Taylor before coming back a few years later and showing up here, there and everywhere, typically in losing efforts on Saturday Night, Worldwide, Main Event, Power Hour and Pro. Realising his WCW career was likely going nowhere fast, James signed with WWE in 1994. After initially struggling to properly establish himself, the DOGG caught fire in the Attitude Era as a member of D-Generation X. Interestingly, James tried to rejoin WCW after being fired by WWE.
They forgot, he said 94, I remember that, because he was, not a manager really. I don't know what they call him, but I know his name on what they would call the term for. But like he was a road dog. I think they called the roadie or something like that. He used to come out with Jeff Jarrett. How about skipping over that? I remember all that because that was a '94 Rumble. We was in school then, and that was when Brett and Luger fell over the rope, and then they told me they're gonna have this coin toss. That was annoying as hell. If Luger wins the coin toss, no. If Brett wins the coin toss, and I told you another video, that's when I was knocking people out with the steel-plated forearm. I don't know about that. I'll never forget that. Lex Luger and the steel-plated forearm, which he does. That's not a joke. He again. He has had plates in his arm. Look it up.
WWE, but showed up seeking employment on what turned out to be the last ever Nitro. He probably should have called somebody first. Number 9, Meiko Satomura. Along with using international talent to help establish their cruiserweight division in the mid-90s, Eric Bischoff also looked overseas for female wrestlers in a bid to get a women's division going as well. To go along with Medusa and Luna, Eazy-E brought in several performers from Japan's Gaia promotion, including a fresh-faced Meiko Satomura. Meiko did a bunch of matches for Worldwide and Pro against her contemporaries, including a first-round match in a tournament to crown a WCW World Women's Champion, which was eventually won by Akira Hakoto. That wasn't the only tournament Satomura participated in during this US excursion, however, as she also showed up on an episode of Nitro in the semi-finals of the WCW Women's Cruiserweight title tournament. Post-WCW, Meiko established herself as one of the very best workers in the business and is justifiably considered a living legend.
That's a rough axe kick.
As she reigns as NXT UK Women's Champion. Number 8.
Here we go.
Most people have no clue that in 2023 the best way to make money on Amazon is not with physical products.
Number 8, Terror Rising.
Oh,
when you
Lord.
really think about it, Hunter Hearst
This
Helmsley's
guy.
Lord Triple H is a bit of a
They
dark
call him the
horse,
Terrorizer.
isn't it?
I remember
Triple H
that.
sounds like a type of cream you would buy to treat sunburn or something. Well, do you know what sounds a lot stupider than Hunter Hearst Helmsley? Terror Rising. That is the name Paul Levesque was saddled with during his early
remember
WCW
that.
days, where he battled and beat such luminaries as Keith Cole, Sonny Rogers, and T.A. McCoy. In those days, the cerebral assassin was still figuring it all out and was basically a good head of hair in a tight pair of trunks and was some ways away from fully developing his game, so to speak. His opportunities increased when he became Jean-Paul Levesque and started speaking with a French accent.
Ain't that his real
but
name?
that gimmick also screamed mid-carder for life. A prospective team with Lord
I'm about looking like the guy
Steve
on
Richards
the
as
Ghostbusters,
Blue Bloods had promised,
picture.
but it was actually Regal who convinced Levesque that he needed to leave WCW and join WWE if he wanted to gain the requisite experience to get better at his craft. He did alright for himself in the end. Number 7, Bruiser Mastino. Glenn Jacobs famously had to endure successive naff gimmicks in WWE before
There was
finding the one
wait a
that
minute
launched
now.
him to worldwide fame and
Hold it.
fortune.
There was another guy named with that same name. Wasn't it the guy that had the bull head, the Mantar, whatever you call it? Another guy with the same name, Bruiser Mastino. Oh, but there was two of them. So I remember there was another guy. He was in WF very shortly, and ECW for a minute.
June. Isaac Yankem DDS and Fake Diesel were both painfully lame.
I remember that now, of
Finished
course.
off a lesser performer for good.
Fake
If
Diesel.
history had gone differently, the mayor of Knox County could have found himself working for the competition. Jacobs turned up for a one-off appearance on WCW
I remember
Saturday
that
Night
now.
a couple of years before becoming an evil dentist to wrestle Sting and put him over, obviously. Dubbed Bruiser Mastino, a name first used by the man who played Mantar, Jacobs looked
Okay,
like-
yes, what I'm saying.
Actually, I don't know what he looked like. Some sort of throwback nightclub entertainer with his shiny gold vest, curly blonde hair, and, Hollywood smile? Greener than his opponent's tights, it must have been obvious to everyone watching that Bruiser needed a lot more seasoning. Luckily for him, he got it before undertaking his make-or-break role as the Big Red Machine. Number 6, Damon Stryker. Damon Stryker, hard-boiled private investigator who plays by his own rules, or plucky Canadian upstart looking for his big break in the wrestling business. Adam Copeland was a lifelong WWE fan and had always hoped that he would sign
Didn't know
a
he was
contract
there
with
either.
Vince McMahon's organization,
Heard about it, but I
it
didn't
was
know he was
WCW who provided him with his televised debut. Commuting an entire 24 hours from the Great White North to Disney MGM Studios in Orlando, Florida, Damon Stryker got to play bump dummy for Kevin Sullivan and Meng in matches taped for WCW Pro. As part of the festivities, the future Hall of Famer also took a chokeslam on the floor from
Ooh.
the Giant, aka The Big Show. As Edge tells it in his autobiography, he made the trip solely for the money and not career advancement, as he knew that WWE was always the end goal. He also stated that, even in the mid-90s, he got a bad vibe from the backstage atmosphere and felt like the inmates were running the asylum. In the end, the whole experience only strengthened his resolve to make it to McMahon Land. Number 5, Robbie V. Imagine Rob Van Dam. Now imagine Rob Van Dam without
Heard
the
he was
stubble,
over there
the
too.
cool airbrushed singlet, the chair-based offense, or the thumb
Seen a
pointer.
picture on there.
That's
He
the
was
Rob
real
Van
young.
Dam,
Yeah, he was
Robbie
real
V,
young.
I should say, who tried his luck in WCW in the early 90s. Recruited by booker Cowboy Bill Watts, Robbie V was poised for a bit of a push and initially won his matches on TV, beating the likes of Scotty Flamingo, Pat Rose, and Shanghai Pierce. Alright, I did say a bit of a push, didn't I? I didn't say he was going to be the new Ricky Steamboat or anything. However, the whole flipping show had a tour booked with All Japan, and when he came back from it, Watts had been replaced by Ole Anderson, who wasn't so hot on this Robbie V character. Knowing he could make $2,000 per week in the Far East, as opposed to the $100 a match he was getting in WCW, Van Dam did what was best for his career and left to focus his efforts on All Japan instead. He would re-emerge for ECW a few years later and get over in a big way, after which the new WCW regime, headed up by Eric Bischoff, desperately wanted him back. Number 4, Dave Heath. Prior to achieving Attitude
Gangrel.
Era infamy as the vampire Gangrel, Dave Heath worked all over the place, from Stu Hart's Stampede to All Japan and even ECW. While trying to get the attention of the American majors, Heath worked as an enhancement talent for both WWE and WCW dating back to the late 80s. In 89,
Damn.
he worked a handful of random
He been
WCW
way back
tag
there.
matches with various partners, then came back in 93 as a member of the Blackhearts. Heath was offered a full-time contract not too long after that, but turned it down because the coaches at the company's power plant training facility had called him fat. Those blood-sucking creatures of the night are all sensitive souls deep down inside. He actually attempted to get back into WCW later, but the promotion wouldn't bite. Unlike Heath, because he's a vampire, innit? Instead, they had him do yet more jobs on low-priority shows like Pro and Worldwide, almost a decade after Heath had first done WCW job duty. Almost a year after putting over Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko, and the Public Enemy, Heath showed up on WWE television in what would become his most famous guise. Number 3, Kip Montana. Billy Gunn seemed to show up as if from nowhere during WWE's New Generation era as a member of the Smoking Guns tag team alongside kayfabe brother Bart. And while it's true that Gunn wasn't a well-travelled veteran or some hot name on the indies, nor was he poached from another company, he did have some experience, including a short stint as an enhancement talent in WCW. Kip Sop was making towns as a professional bull rider when he thought, what could be even worse for my body than this, and decided to swap the rodeo arena for a wrestling ring. He had the most rodeo
bull
cowboy
riding, that's
name
nothing
you
to
could
play with.
imagine initially, of course, going by Kip Montana, as he faced some heavy hitters in the form of Sting and the Road Warriors on WCW Pro in 1989. Everyone watching back then must have known that Sting and Kip Montana would still be going strong on TBS over 30 years later. Gunn was still very new to the business at the time and didn't do anything to really stand out, though his size and athleticism would have...
Didn't know about a lot of that back then. So a lot of those guys, or some of those guys, they go back to 88 or 89. Didn't know that. Only one I remember, I know that I heard Luger started in the 80s. And who else? Al Snow, I didn't know that. And Shane Douglas, and even Cactus Jack. Yes. So, because I thought a lot of them started in like 1990 or something. Like they probably wrestling 5 years before that.
opened the WWE door a few years later. Number 2, Mr.
Hey, grab me one too.
Mr. JL. Jerry Lynn was
Jerry
already
Jerry
7 and a
Lynn,
half
Mr.
years into
JL.
his pro wrestling journey.
He had a
when
mask
signed
on.
for
Yeah,
WCW
there you go.
in 1995.
Looks like Mysterio's mask.
Lynn had been something of a sensation on the indies, having wrestled some standout matches with, in particular, Shawn Lightning
Van Damme had his
Coleman,
hands
as well
full
as
when
doing
they
tours
got
of
in the
Japan
ring.
and Mexico. Even though he had a reputation as a worker, WCW
Mr.
wanted to bring him
JL.
in wearing a mask and outfit similar to the very popular Power Rangers as a member of the Cruiserweight
Oh, damn,
division.
Power Rangers. That's
Creatively
Mysterio's
renamed
mask.
Mr. JL. Gee, how did they come up with that? Lynn wrestled a wide variety of opponents on
Mr.
Nitro,
JL.
Saturday Night, Pro, and Worldwide, usually coming out on the losing side of things and couldn't really get any momentum going due to injuries. He was let go while convalescing in the summer of '97, and after having a couple of tryouts with WWE, he wound up in ECW. It was alongside Paul Heyman's merry band of misfits that Jerry would truly solidify his legacy, having umpteen classic matches as well as winning the promotion's heavyweight title. Number 1, Terry Richards. One of the great successes of latter-day ECW
Rhino.
was the rise of Rhino. The last ECW champion before Paul Heyman's promotion bit the dust, the Man-Beast was a force to be reckoned with in Philadelphia and looked like a genuine top-level guy as he gored his way through the roster. It wasn't always that way, mind, and just a few years beforehand, he was one of the many bone benders hoping to catch the eye of either WWE or WCW. He had worked a series of televised matches for both organisations as plain old Terry Richards, but did more of them for WCW and got in there with some big stars too, like Road Warrior Hawk, Jim Duggan, the Nasty Boys, and The Renegade. Hilariously, Rhino's own prevailing memory from this time was being backstage at the 1995 Great American Bash pay-per-view and looking on in horror as his childhood hero, Hulk Hogan, drank not one, but several ice-cold beers. Well, let me tell you something, brother. If you think that's the worst thing the Hulkster is capable of, I've got some sad news that's going to run wild on you.
Oh, wow. No about saying that. No, that was messed up right there. I got so sad. It's going to run wild. No, oh, boy, that was something, though. Yeah, but a lot of these I know, some of them I didn't. I knew about Road Dog or Roadie, whatever, Brian James, a few other people. I didn't know that Billy Gunn was up there, and I knew about Van Dam. Well, seen pictures of Van Dam. I never seen him, but heard about Van Dam, and didn't know Rhino was up there, or did you say Richards? They didn't mention Raven. He was up there. Sky Flamingo. He was little back then too. Not little, but smaller. Yeah, a few other guys. All the Nash up there. When they became Razor and Diesel, that was it. You know. Come on now. Everybody wanted that Diesel glove and the Razor Ramon chain. So come on now, there was a lot that became big stars eventually.